Hello, and welcome to Revamped, a rewatch podcast that revisits my top favorite shows and movies. I'm your host, Brandon Alexander, joined by my co-host,
Courtney Autumn.
Venture with us as we set our sights on the infamous Hellmouth to cover 90s cult classic, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Follow along from the beginning, spoiler-free, as Courtney views the show for the first time and I revisit the series for new takes and a fresh perspective on its narrative.
Each season, every episode, in order, we will follow Buffy Summers and her friends to examine their character development, the show's underlying themes, along with its major story arcs, all while engaging in conversations, sharing our own authentic thoughts and feelings to what's unfolding before us.
So sharpen your stakes, load your crossbows, and join us as we explore the supernatural world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Let's get into the episode.
I'm a vampire. That's my record voice. I will do every Buffy episode like I'm from Transylvania. AKA Dracula. All right, here we are. Season 1, Episode 7, Angel. Aired April 14th, 1997, on Sarah Michelle Gellar's 20th birthday. Written by David Greenwalt and directed by Scott Brazil. The names were very easy today. Can you believe Sarah Michelle Gellar was only 20 years old doing this shit? That means she was only like 27 when the show ended in general.
Wait, hold on. This is the first whole year, right? So she was 20. She was 19 when they started. Wow, that's crazy to think about. Right? Especially because that was in the 90s. Wait, how old is she now?
46.
Oh, she's looking good.
She's mommy. Yeah. Well, this one's gonna be fun. I'm excited. When the Master orders a trio of powerful vampires to eliminate Buffy, Angel intervenes and is gravely injured. As Buffy cares for him, their intimacy hits its peak, and she uncovers the shocking truth on his complex past, the reality of their connection, and the darkness that comes with it. I really am surprised, though, that Joss Whedon didn't write this episode. For it to be his two big main characters, Angel and Buffy, I was surprised to realize that Joss didn't do the episode, because I figured he'd want full control on where that story was going. I'm sure he helped out in the writer's room, or was like, because he's notorious for after they write a script being like, nah, I'm gonna change 48,000% of this. But I wanted to mention that they were going back and forth on who Angel was going to be. So they like left it open, because obviously we learn who Angel is in this story. And they were going back and forth for a really long time on what they wanted him to be. And they obviously landed on him being a vampire for the story. And initially they were leading into maybe making him an angel, since his name was Angel. I'm myself very glad that they did not do as such, because it just wouldn't have served the story. And that's very Supernatural. They did that on Supernatural with one of the characters. I haven't watched that show across its whole span, but I do know that they had an angel come on the series, which was cool for probably their show that's like just all around the supernatural stuff. But for something centered around vampires, and then this dynamic that we've now been introduced between Buffy and Angel themselves, I'm glad they went with the vampire storyline.
Totally.
But yeah, this episode was very well written, and even so more acted out. I love the progression of Buffy and Angel and the moments that they had, their first kiss, and it just always makes my heart swoon. These moments are pure nostalgia for me as a kid, or when I was a teen watching the show in its prime in my early years with it. It just really pulls my heartstrings, and when I rewatch it, it calls me back to a simpler time. I can remember all the feelings, and honestly, I still feel the exact same way I felt then. I can rewatch certain episodes again and again, and even though the stories told are the same, I know what's coming. I still continue to cry and get enveloped in the series, and like it's almost like I'm watching it for the first time again, because I get lost in those emotions, and it sincerely is a testament to the writing and how the show grows on you and becomes a part of you. You just feel like you're there again. These beginning seasons are just so much, but yeah, the history and the slight backstory we get on Angel, and also Darla, we get way more to her story, and a big shakeup, only for her to have like her demise in the end as well. It just comes off as a shock, but this is a very good one, and definitely number 2 on my top 2, which I think I've said in past recordings. This is my top space after the season finale for season 1 and episodes for me, but I look forward to discussing it and seeing what comes up as we go along the way. What are your thoughts going in?
The same as you. I really enjoyed just watching the progression of how things evolved between Buffy and Angel's relationship dynamic, because obviously especially the last few episodes, there were a lot of like breadcrumbing situations where they were already alluding to this happening, and it was just a matter of when and not if this will happen. So I was kind of glad to see it finally did, since we are 7 episodes in, because I was like, if they're gonna wait until the finale to make these two evolve into the space we know is coming, I'm gonna be upset. Like, I can't wait for all this time. But I really enjoyed it. I want to say that this is one of the episodes that had a more serious undertone for me. Like, I've had like less funny moments come up where I was jotting notes down, talking shit about something. I was very enamored with the love story. And like you, it took me back to a certain place where I guess just the element of knowing it's a 90s show, it just made me think of all those other 90s shows and movies that were in that same era of time, and they have that same tone when it comes to those moments between two people that are finally getting together, and you've kind of already have this attachment to the character, before they even evolve into being in a relationship. So it was just really kind of nice to go back into like a nostalgic place, like you said.
The whole time we were talking about that, whenever you were talking about the other 90s show, I immediately saw when Ross comes in. He's like at the locked doors after Rachel closes up the coffee shop, and he's standing out in the rain and his head's just pressed up against it. And they have that big swooping moment, which is so much bigger than the first kiss or even the ending kiss in the episode for Angel that Buffy and Angel had. But it does have that same kind of pull in this, that not the same as TV shows nowadays when characters have their first kiss and stuff. It's not at all.
Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same at all. It was really nice. It was refreshing in that regard, just to go back in time with that whole kind of scenery and the aesthetic and the lighting and the way the filming is done. It was just all very 90s.
To also preface before we get into some other stuff and the episode, both myself and Courtney being on the more downhill version of it, we're both currently a little bit under the weather. I'm past my bad days and I'm still just like congested. So if y'all hear any coughing that I'm not able to clip or something just misses out of the episode, just know we're trying our best, especially on Courtney's side. This bitch is even here with me today. Like, it was funny before we came in to record today because we were texting and I was like, are you sure you want to do the episode today? You can totally rest and whatever. And you were like, nah, I'm fine. I'll just be over here like, and you sent me that gif of Monica when she's sick on Friends and she's like,
are you saying that you don't want to get with this?
like, and then you sent me another one where you're like, I'm not sick, I'm fine.
I don't need a tissue, I'm fine.
When you put a D at the end of fine, you're not fine.
Just that episode's so funny. I'm surprised. She's like, I love this episode so much, no matter whether I'm sick or not.
Let's do something crazy.
I know, let's rest and drink lots of fluids.
Okay, I'll rest.
Whether I have a voice
know,
or
right?
not.
Courtney, I'll be playing Courtney's role today. Everything you've heard so far that Courtney said, I actually said. I have been her friend for so long, I can mimic her exact tone.
Well, just AI generate my voice into the
No,
script.
it's just me. See, I just said that sentence as well. Just kidding. But you mentioned that this only being episode 7, something I have to clue you in on for this and for going into each season moving forward. Episode 7s are always pivotal to each season's story and arc. Each season in episode 7, we always find out more to what the season has to hold. They are typically bigger episodes that lay this out, as this one obviously is big in all of the ways. That being said, episode season of 7-1 kicks that off where we learn more about Angel. It will help to drive the Buffy and Angel arc across its entirety, essentially, because it all starts here. And even so, Angel's full arc and story as just a preface. Moving into future seasons, episode 7 is more key to the season's arc and storyline being dropped on us, where episodes 1 through 6, starting from season 2 and on, are usually about cleaning up the previous season and like generating what is to come for the newest season. But then by season 7, it's like sealed up and ready to go. They introduce us to like usually, what the story is going to be for us, what's going to be pivotal for our characters, the theme, or the overall big bad is sometimes even like more so introduced in a bigger way or context in the show. I say that sparingly, but it's just iconic and everybody knows this across the Buffyverse that episode 7s tend to really always be a big deal. So I wanted to tell you that to be on the lookout as we venture more into the series. Keep that eye open. Don't be winking like David, you know?
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's good to know. Do all of the seasons have the same number of episodes?
Every episode going forward after this season has 22 episodes like original shows did, because they used to have like 22 or 24 back in the day. So this is the only season
Okay.
because, like we said, mid-season replacement, they had to wrap up the season quick. So they told the season 1 story arc in 12 episodes. And it's not like nowadays where most seasons are 12 episodes or like 8 or so. Would be cool if they are, but like this helped to stretch the story out, which gives us our little filler episodes that we get that aren't always contextual to the like overall story, but they're just like,
Those are like the more funny
they
ones.
typically are. They have more time to play around with it. And Buffy's really good about dropping little small things in those episodes, even if it's just like a key scene across the whole thing. I can't say that it just entirely wipes out season 1, not so much, but every other one moving forward, keep them breadcrumbs trailing out, even if the overall plot isn't hitting home once we hit season 2 and move forward. But yes, 22 episodes to look forward to.
Wow, okay, I didn't know that. I was gonna say, because I was like, are they all 12 episodes? Because then it would have made sense to me that they choose a number like episode 7 to put in like the rest of the theme or the rest of the reveal, because then you have the same number of episodes on the front end and on the back end. But I'm like, dang, that's random to put everything in episode 7 or have that pivotal moment, and then you still have like
18 episodes,
15 episodes.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
No doubt. All right, great. Well, let's find out what happens in the episode because we are clueless going in. Just kidding. Cue the Slayer prologue.
In every generation, there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the Slayer.
To throw out here, this episode we get our first previously on Buffy. So, previously on Buffy. We're reminded of the moments Angel is introduced. When Buffy first met him and Willow and Xander see him, Giles speaks on the prophecy and how the Brethren will bring the Master the Anointed, and once again we're told how the Master's greatest weapon against the Slayer will be him as such, and that he was in fact delivered to the Master at the end of Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. 2 episodes ago, we got our little boy Colin, our little vampire, the Anointed one.
I call him Thomas.
Joey. Joey, you better look at me when I'm talking to you and acknowledge me. We open in the Master's dwellings, as the Anointed is grabbing stones from the Master's hand and tossing them into the pool of blood residing in the floor. You know that one miraculously doesn't drip from or cling to the body. Also that, I guess this is how you entertain a vampire child, because he's just handing him shit and this kid's just chunking it into the blood pool. I'm like, why hasn't the Master hop back up in there yet?
I know. We need to see him be blood resistant again.
Blood resist. Darla enters alone, and the Master asks about Zachary, one of his brethren that we've never heard about before, not returning from their hunt the night before. Darla pointing out that the Slayer got him. The Master mentions his frustrations over how she's been taking so many of his family from him, and he's fed up. He looks to Colin and asks what he would do about it.
I'd annihilate her.
He says in a weird, odd, distorted voice. Okay, little dude's 3-foot self wouldn't last 4 seconds against Buffy, but okay. Darla wants to take care of Buffy for him, but he is wary she has personal feelings over the issue and alludes to the fact that he will instead send the 3 after her. Darla's face whenever he says that, she's like, the 3? I'm like, who the fuck the 3? We about to find out. Above ground.
Listen, I gotta insert something here. Whenever they did a reveal of Darla, mind you, I've done forgotten at this point that Darla exists because that was all of 6 episodes ago. So when she comes back into the screen, I'm like, oh shit, it's what's her name? And Meredith is watching it with me and she was like, Darla. And I was like, oh, okay, listen. We're going to have to get her in on an episode, I guess, because she's fact-checking.
I know, right? We need our guests. We have guests in the future, but I guess Meredith will have to choose which one was her favorite and be like, all right, I'm popping on the episode, and you hand her a notepad and be like, here, mine's, take some notes.
No, next time I'm sick, she'll just be my stand-in.
Hello, Meredith. Welcome to the episode. I'll have to change the whole introduction.
She'll be like, I'm Courtney.
Exactly. Well, y'all have switched bodies for the day, like y'all talked about on Life in Retrograde for the instance of this.
Yes.
Either way, above ground, we see cigarettes being lit and 3 men standing on the street. This must be them, because all bad guys smoke cigs, but not, as 3 vampires come walking around the corner wearing suits of armor looking like Joan of Arc's dead brothers. Your face. They spook the hinted at bad guys who run off as they continue forward. We cut to the bronze, where we watch someone's foot chase a roach on the floor. Then some girl barehanded picks it up and places it in a cup the bartender wields. It's the barehanded cockroach picking for me. That bitch was nasty. She just picked that thing up by its antenna and dropped it, which I ain't gonna hate because I pick up crickets and my tarantula tanks and such. But like,
I thought you were about to be like, I pick up crickets and put them on my sandwich.
I should have. I didn't even think about that. Cricket sandwich, yum. What's that? Call me Natalie.
Natalie.
No, I'm dead. But this whole fumigation party, we'll get into like 2 seconds. I'm like jumping ahead, but I can't play around. What the fuck is up with this? Anyways, at a nearby table, Willow and Buffy sit, and she tells Buffy about the fumigation party to nuke the cockroaches that takes place annually, and how you get a free drink if you catch a roach. Oh, and at least you get a free drink for touching roaches, but the annual trash fumigation party, aka the one time we ever hear about this moment and never see it going on forward. But it is here to supply the bronze as our final showdown venue for Buffy and Angel, so it had to set up why the venue was going to be closed and why Buffy and Angel were just able to be in there in the end of the episode alone. The fumigation. You know, Buffy's over here shooting crossbow bolts at the ground, be like, oh, I thought that was Angel, but it was a roach. I guess. Their conversation reaches a dull point when Willow realizes Buffy isn't that interested in it and calls her out on why she's brooding. Buffy clues her in that she's in deep thoughts, Willow asking, so we're thinking guys? Meaning Angel, which steers the conversation right into him. Naturally, the writers include Buffy's quote, not exactly a guy, alluding to the fact that we find out about Angel later on not being an actual guy. Mm-hmm. Deep into detail, Buffy mentions how she couldn't picture a relationship with him, as it would be him popping in to say,
Hi, honey, you're in grave danger. I'll see you next month.
Willow agrees it isn't ideal. He's not around much. Buffy smiles and is starstruck at the entertained thought of him, though, mentioning that when he is around, it's like the lights dim everywhere else, asking Willow if she knows what she means. And boy, she sure does, as she looks over to Xander, who is dancing like a fool out on the dance floor. He pisses off a jock with his presence, and Xander backs away from him, fearful of getting smacked, and bumps into Cordelia, who is also out there dancing, and also unamused with his presence. She annoyedly comments on how he needs to back the fuck up and stop stepping all over her $200 shoes. He tries to explain himself, but she has him clogged and lets him know that he needs to leave the dance floor before the jock squashes him like one of the roaches skittering on the floor. Embarrassed, he snaps back at her.
You know, hey, I don't know what everyone's talking about. That outfit doesn't make you look like a hooker.
Feeling he's won this round, he moves off the dance floor and joins Willow at their table, notating that Cordelia is a breath of vile air. And he is there to hang with them. What are they up to? Willow saying, just sitting there watching life pass us by.
Oh, look, a cockroach.
Squanch. Willow has to kill the cockroach on her shoe. She steps on it, and Buffy gently looks up, unamused but noticing. Xander comments on how they aren't nearly as fun. Buffy, blaming herself, decides to head home for the night. As she leaves, Willow waves her shoe in front of Xander's face, displaying the now-dead cockroach at the bottom, offering him a free drink. As Buffy motions towards the door, we catch a glimpse of Angel watching her exit, and she senses something. Looks behind her, but he's disappeared. These damn cockroaches. Willow gonna wave her damn shoe up in Xander's face. Talking about, you want a free drink? What? Buffy's face when she stepped on it too. She all side-eye overlooked, and she was like, this is where I'm gonna leave now. I'm gonna say it's because of this, but I ain't trying to hang out with a bunch of roaches, aka Xander. Buffy fashion watch. That lace top over her white shirt was just super cute. I would have totally have worn that back in the day. It's just very slouchy and lived in looking. I was like, yes.
Yeah, I loved it. It was a
total vibe. Summer together is hot. Outside, she's making her way home. Walking past some stores, she begins to slow her roll as she starts to sense something. Taking a look behind her, nothing, and continues on, reminding me of the shots we saw in the first episode when Angel was following behind her. It directly mimics it as it follows her feet from the background. She stops again seconds later because she knows something's there. She says out loud,
It's late, I'm tired, and I don't want to play games. Show yourself.
We see one of the three drop down behind her. She reaches in her jacket to retrieve her stake and spins around at him, just as the second one grabs her arm, stopping her. The third then appears, grabs her other arm, and the three haul her into a nearby alley. She grows alarmed, laughing nervously in one's face, saying to them,
Okay, look, I really don't want to fight all three of you, unless I have to.
She kicks the one in front of her, elbows the left one, breaking free of their grasp momentarily, and starts to take on the third, but he kicks her back into the fence, and the two grab at her again by her arms, pinning her. She struggles to break free as the third growls and walks straight at her as we see the fear setting in on her face, totally thinking that this may be it for her. That bitch was like scary. Them things, watching the show the first time, I remember this moment. 3 vampires at once. We've never seen her tackle that many in a setting that in the first few episodes they're running from a slew of vampires. When Jesse and them are in the tunnels, she's like, I can't take on all these things, but you just wait until Buffy comes into her stride, because there's this future scene that I thought of. We've mentioned this one time before. Buffy just like bop 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 like it's nothing over there. We get our Buffy opening titles. Bow, dow, dow, dow. All right, I'm done. The lead of the 3 reaches Buffy and grabs a hold of her, going in for her neck, when his head is grabbed from behind. We see Angel holding him by the hair, rearing him back, looking at him saying, "Good dogs don't bite," and delivering a blow to the vampire's face. The other 2 distracted, Buffy uses this moment to rear him back and bring up her legs to meet both of their faces, breaking free again. They take on the vamps. One grabs a bar and smashes Angel in the ribs. Buffy screams at him they need to run, and they take off fast. They make it to Buffy's house, as the 3 aren't far behind. At the front door, Buffy opens it just in time, calling out to come on, get in, and her and Angel make it inside safely. The 3 linger outside as Angel comments that they are okay, giving us the lore that vampires can't come in unless invited. Buffy saying she's heard that, but never put it to the test. The main leader of the 3, his eyes all scarred up. Do we suspect that this is the master's handiwork, since he has a penchant for this move, aka you've got something in your eye? It fits. So I was like, did he cause this scar? Is this guy just badass? The 3 in general, if Buffy were to try to stake them, what's that stake going through? Because I don't know if Buffy can drive a stake through pure metal on a flap. I know she's strong, but that's obviously like some armor there for a reason. These vampires have came prepared. Buffy would have been fucked if Angel hadn't have came and intervened. I also wanted to note that they just ran all the way clear across town to Buffy's house. What is this? Buffy running to the zoo? They running everywhere in this town. Buffy hopped on her Segway and put Angel on her back and was like, out of here.
She's like, hold on tight.
Basically, piggybacking. It's like Edward and Bella, but reversed.
You better hold on tight, Spider Monkey.
Spider Monkey. I didn't even have that in my notes, but it's funny. No, listen, when they're on the way to Buffy's house, she's on the Segway and the song is playing in the background. And what's up with the vampire's arm being able to partially come in the door? This always drives me crazy because it's like a continuity error. Vampires aren't supposed to be able to come in or across the threshold, but his arm just clear came in and she shut the door. I mean, I get it for the dramatic effect. Oh, I'm almost in. I'm about to get you, but vampires can't come inside, so he should have a force field like the master stopping him from even being able to do as such.
Yeah, that's actually a good observation. You're like, okay, so your arm can come in without my permission, but not the rest of you.
Good thing they backed up, or else his fingers would have been able to get them. So
he may have pulled a master stunt. He would have been like, you have something in your eye.
For real. Buffy's like, well, now I'm eyeless, but not dead. Oh, well. This scene reminds me of Sarah Michelle Gellar's scene in I Know What You Did Last Summer, whenever she's running from the fisherman and she's approaching her sister's shop and she's like banging on the door. She's like, Elsa, let me in. And he's slow approaching her. Every horror movie does that. It also reminds me of Laurie trying to get in the house on Halloween out there, freaking the fuck out. And she's like throwing the pumpkin up at the window to try to like get in. As the killer is approaching, we're getting that shot of him like getting closer and closer. I was just feeling that. So I like the little horror trope nod that they did like leading into this. It definitely puts me on edge every time.
Yeah, I want to say that like this episode, it scared me. And I know I said that last episode, but there was definitely some moments where I was genuinely not expecting some shit to go down. And then it was just like that aha moment where I was like, oh, no.
What would you do if the 3 were about to attack you? Be like, all right, great.
I don't know. See, I put myself in these situations sometimes with any case. Like it could be this, it could be Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, it could be anybody. And I'm always just like, I don't know. I feel intuitively if there's a sense this is just going to lead to an inevitable death for you, I'm just going to let them kill me. Because I'm not going to exert my energy the last few moments I have alive. I'm just going to stand there and let you do what you need to do because I'm not probably going to get away from you. So bye. Unless you're Michael Myers, who cannot for some reason run.
For sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess that's entirely different if you're not taking on 3 vampires. That's like Freddy Krueger and you're in your dreams already. You're
But
fucked.
3? I know if I was in Buffy's shoes and I didn't know Angel was about to be coming like around the corner to save my ass, I would already let them have my neck.
The motherfuckers should clue in Nightmare on Elm Street. By the 3rd one, Dream Warriors, which is one of my favorite ones, they all realize in their dreams we have control over them as well. So we can do whatever we want. Our dreams can be as vivid as we want them to be too. So they all fight Freddy back. Like, Freddy ain't never scared me in my dreams though, but I get you. It's worth pondering the perception on the horror trip.
You're like, I'm sad he's never come and paid me a visit.
You're invited, Freddy. Come on the podcast, aka in my dreams when we record. Buffy looks over to Angel at the front door, noticing he's wounded, moves towards the kitchen to gather some first aid supplies, instructing him to remove his top half of clothes so she can address his wounds. Wink, wink. Shirtless Angel, incoming. She notices a bird tattoo on his right shoulder blade once he removes his shirt and notes that it's a nice tattoo. As she bandages him up, she looks at him tenderly, commenting on how she's lucky that he came along. Also questioning how he just happened to be there. Him replying, he lives nearby. He was just out and about. She tells him she thought for sure that he was following her. He smirks. Now, why would he do that? Because you were? Like, he was following her from the bronze. The fact that she was thinking, and it was him following her in Welcome to the Hellmouth, she was obviously thinking Angel was following her, sensing him from the bronze and everything. But she turned around with her stake, ramming it towards him. Was she just expecting him to be behind her again the way she kicked him down and gonna attack? Or was she just like ready for anybody? I don't know. If you thought that was Angel, why are you trying to pull out a stake on his ass? Why wouldn't you just turn around and be fist up, if anything? Or turn around and be like, yes, Angel, you got something cryptic to say?
What's your next cryptic message?
I guess since it was the 3, she had to have the stake out. But whatever. I did write a note in here, the amount of times I paused this scene in my younger years to stare at shirtless Angel. The way she looks up at him, though, in a moment, the chemistry between the two is totally on fire. You can just, I don't know, Sarah Michelle Gellar has the cutest eyes and way of expressing herself. It's all in her eyes most of the time. You'll see when she develops like her emotional scenes later on, you'll be like, damn, this bitch should have won an award, and she never does. I don't get it. As the tension grows between the two of them, Buffy mentions she's aware of the mystery guy lingering around her.
Fucking lingerer, man.
Yeah, totally.
Linger.
Hardcore.
If he's watching over her, she'd like to know why. He replies, maybe I like you. She is stunned at this, but before she can be more flirty, we hear her mother unlocking the door and entering the home. She rushes to the front door, ushering her mother in quickly and closing the door back, looking outside to see if the 3 are still out there because they were clearly about to eat Joyce up. Joyce curious as to why she's dragging her in, Buffy telling her, you know, there's just a lot of crazy people out there, possibly 3 crazy vampires that are going to eat my mom up. Her mom begins to walk toward the kitchen, but Buffy hops in front of her, knowing damn well Angel's in there, trying to stop her, motioning her towards the stairs, trying to persuade her to head upstairs, that she must be beat from her day, and if she does go upstairs, how she can bring her a nice cup of hot tea. Joyce comments how that's sweet, but clocking Buffy's behavior asks, what'd you do? Buffy assures her that she's just being a doting daughter as Angel walks into view in the other room. Caught. Her mom greets Angel. Buffy acts quick to introduce the two, telling her that they ran into each other on the way home. Angel says it's nice to meet her. While Joyce begins to question what he does, he's a student, Buffy blurts out, answering for him. Her mom taking notice to the fact that he's obviously not a high school student, Buffy clears that up with a direct lie about how he's a student at the community college. He's been tutoring her in history, since she's been toiling in that subject. Joyce makes it clear that it's a bit late for tutoring and suggests that she be sending him on his way and head to bed as she begins to go upstairs, telling Angel it was in fact nice to meet him, glaring at Buffy. The next shot is in the same moment. Buffy stands before the front door with it open, hollering out, "Night, we'll hook up soon and do that study thing." She pushes the door closed to reveal Angel still standing there. The two move up the stairs to her room. Now you mean to tell me Joyce ain't hear them 2 sets of footsteps going up them loud-ass wooden stairs?
I know. I'm like, that would have never
But
worked.
also, why was this me sneaking my boyfriend in the house when I was 16 to stay the night?
Well, you didn't have no old ass stairs probably to really worry about. You probably could just let him in your window.
I lived in a trailer. I had no stairs. Plus, also, Gator knew he was going to be there. So my stepmom was all like, oh, this is fine, whatever. If your dad tries to come back there, I'm just going to be like, quick, Kenny, wrestling's on. I don't know.
Diversion
Gator
tactic.
was the shit. I miss her.
Love her.
Once there, Angel takes a look around and tells her, look, I don't want to get you in any more trouble, as if he should leave. And Buffy tells him back, and I don't want to get you dead. They still could be out there. Taking this moment to realize there's two of them and only one bed, she remarks on this and even tries to offer her bed to him since he's wounded, and he is persistent on the fact that he will most definitely be happy with the floor. She makes it aware that she needs to change, so he moves over to the window to gaze out and check for the Fang Gang while she does so. They speak on how it's her job to fight these guys, and she wonders what's his excuse. Him offering, somebody has to. What does his family think of his career choice, she asks. He informs her that they're dead. She finishes changing, and looking at him stunned, moves over to join him by the window, asking concerned if it was vampires. He agrees that it was. Condolences are offered, so this is a vengeance gig for you, she wonders. He pauses, just staring at her, not wanting to further this convo, tells her, you're going to look pretty when you go to sleep, huh? She smirks and says when she wakes up that's an entirely different story. Either that or she's picking up on our context clues and she's realizing that he doesn't want to talk about this because it's a sore subject. She moves to her bed and tosses down some of her pillows and hands him a blanket. Sleep tight, she tells him. We get an upward shot of the two laying side by side as he takes his spot on the floor, and she calls out to him once more, kind of looking down at him. Angel, do you snore? He laughs and says,
I don't know. It's been a long time since anybody's been in a position to let me know.
He looks up at her and they fall asleep. I'm certain he does not snore, as we'll learn in 10 minutes he has no breath. Basically. The next morning in the library, Xander is straight tripping. He spent the night in your bed? Not in my bed, by my bed, she confirms. Having told the gang about the previous night's adventures, Willow living vicariously, commenting that this is so romantic, asking, did he, perfect gentleman, Buffy states back. Yeah, Xander, take fucking notes on how to not be a skis, because this motherfucker in the room with her too, not watching her change, not using little mirrors that he won't reflect in to look at her.
Listen, I was waiting for the moment. I was like, oh, here we go. We're going to set up another changing clothes moment. And I was like, I shit you not. I'm going to start texting Brandon and blowing his phone up immediately if Angel pulls a Xander and he's got like some damn secret ass pocket mirror all of a sudden where he's watching this bitch change, or he's using the window as the mirror, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, you can pretend he's looking out the window.
I know, right? We know damn well Angel ain't carrying no mirror. He got to check his complexion. No.
It doesn't show up.
That is true. Willow's eyes look dreamily at Buffy. Xander comments how she needs to wake up. He's a guy, and this is the oldest trick in the book. What, saving my life, getting your ribs bashed in? She asks him. Duh. I mean, guys would do anything to impress a girl. He scoffs and tells him about how he once drank an entire gallon of Gatorade to impress someone. Willow remembering this impressive incident and its ick factor afterward. Also, shut up, Xander. Giles comes down from the stacks to join them in hopes to steer the conversation back to the actual important events of the evening, with the three feral vampires showing a book to Buffy containing them, asking if this is them. She agrees and asks what's up with the uniforms. It seems she's encountered the three, he tells her. Warrior vampires, very proud and very strong. Willow, with gentle snark, asks Giles why he always seems to know this information and what's going on. She never knows what's going on. He tells her, well, you weren't here from midnight to 6 a.m. researching it. She agrees that she was in fact in bed sleeping. Giles goes on to tell Buffy she's clearly hurting the Master, as he wouldn't just send the three for any reason, and how they must step up their training with weapons. Xander tries to say Buffy should stay at his house to stay safe. Willow can go tell Angel to skedaddle and hopes to maybe keep her from returning home for another night with Angel. Shut up, Xander. I love how every time I gotta be like, shut up, Xander. And Giles tells him her and Angel aren't in any immediate danger, as with the failure of the three's mission, they will offer their lives in penance to the Master, so they will no longer most likely be a threat. As we cut to the Master's dwellings, the three kneel before the Master, telling him that they failed in their duty, and how their lives now belong to him, aka offering their lives in penance. Handing him over a long wooden spear, which he takes and hands over to Darla, who is standing nearby. The Master kneels over by Colin as Darla moves behind the three, telling him to pay attention, child. You are the anointed, and there is much to learn. With power comes great responsibility. True, they did fail, but also true, we who walk at night share a common bond. The taking of life, not humans, of course, is a serious matter. Colin asks in his distorted voice, so you would spare them? The Master rises and looks over to the three, who anxiously await his response and their fate. The Master says,
I am weary, and their deaths will bring me little joy.
He moves away, turning his back to Darla, giving the okay to dispose of them, and she stakes one of the three. Dust explodes into the air in front of her. We get the off-screen, not 2K per sleigh, because they ain't got the budget right now. They gotta save it for the end. And Colin follows after the master, who turns once more to catch a glimpse of Darla dusting the final warrior vampire, remarking,
Of course, sometimes a little is enough.
I liked that little statement that he said, but I also have to comment that the quote that the master says about responsibility, does that sound familiar to you at all?
Is it supposed to?
Maybe.
Ooh.
For me, for sure. But it's a notorious quote, and it's the exact same phrase we hear from Uncle Ben and Aunt May in Spider-Man. They tell Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility. It's an iconic Spider-Man quote. I'm a huge fan of superhero stuff. So, of course, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, shit, I see you there. There's another little insert for Marvel because, Joss Whedon loves that shit, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I also wrote my notes about how we didn't get the 2K per sleigh moment. They would have had to have wasted that on 3 vampires. And they're like, nah, we got to save it for our girl at the end.
Yep. I was waiting for it too. I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to do it? Are they going to actually on screen 2K per sleigh?
I know, right? Because it's Darla actually killing them.
fine.
No, but I mean, at least they did a practical effect. That was actually cool. She probably choked on it. They're like, hey, we're going to blow this dirt up in your face. Because that was real stuff. That wasn't like CGI or anything. They're just like, we're going to explode a dust bag in front of your face with some powder puff. We're going to brown tint some baby powder and shoot it up in the air. Someone's down there with it in their hand doing like white chicks going...
Nah, they just had like a dark ass trampoline with a bunch of fucking like dust, and they were like, all right,
they dropped a bowling ball on it.
Jump off of that.
It's a practical effects for me, but it was cool. So we technically did see. So maybe they spent $10 at Dollar General getting the dirt and stuff like that to create the effect. Anyways, back at the school, we see Giles' arms open up the library door and set out a sign that says the library is closed for filing. Come back tomorrow. Buffy is seen in the cage in front of a cabinet that displays multiple weapons. She grabs the crossbow and begins to load it, saying,
Check out these babies. Goodbye, steaks. Hello, flying fatality. What can I shoot?
She asks, coming out of the cage. Nothing, Giles confirms. They must start their training with basics, being the quarterstaff, as he grabs 2 long wooden staffs out the closet, adding that the crossbow can come later. The staffs take vigorous, countless hours to perfect. He speaks from experience. Buffy jokes about not fighting Friar Tuck style, and it's the 20th century. He confirms she never knows with whom or what she'll be fighting. These traditions have been done for centuries, and how, if she shows him some good, steady progress with the staffs, in due course they'll discuss the crossbow. By this point, he slipped on head, torso, and arm pads, offering that she do the same. She laughs at him humbly. I'm not going to need pads to fight you. We'll see about that, he says, drawing up the staff in ready position, giving the on guard. He strikes at her with his. They go back and forth. She's in sync and blocking his advances. Aha! He tries to call out because he thinks he's getting the upper hand. No, he's not, as the pace is quickly picked up, and now he's blocking her advances. She does a move which forces his staff to the ground. She reaches out with her arm to his face, punching him, hits him in the back with her staff, and then sweeps him underneath his legs, knocking him down and onto his back. He looks up at her, entirely stunned. She walks up beside him, leaning onto her staff and shrugging at him, smirking proudly. Out with a breath and panting, he forces out the words,
Good. Let's move on to the crossbow.
That shit was funny as fuck. She like whooped his ass in all of 20 seconds. He's like, this took me countless hours to learn and perfect how to hit people with sticks. It's going to be the same for you, Buffy. And Buffy's like, okay, but I have this prepossessed like power within me that has come from generation back to God knows when. It's innate within me to know how to fight things. What are you talking about? And she nailed that shit too. He's like, let's move on to the crossbow.
I don't know. I will say though, like later, I don't want to jump too much ahead, but later when she's actually using the crossbow, Brandon. I'm so glad your face. I don't even need to say anything else. We'll just get there when we get there. But your face said enough. I know we're on the same page because I was like, why does she look so full?
I'm gonna remember this and bring it up. I have 2 points to make about that because it's kind of like fucked up how that happens. Anyways,
I'm gonna feel bad.
We cut back to Buffy's house that night. Buffy comes into her room looking around, calls out Angel's name. He comes out from behind her curtain shadows, telling her, hey. She cuts on a light and tells him that she's brought him some dinner. It's a Ziploc bag, and she apologizes for the platelessness. Huge shout out here to Prophecy Girl's podcast because we love dinner in a bag over here too. I know you have no idea what that means, and if anybody else doesn't, Prophecy Girls podcast is another fellow Buffy podcast that got me interested to do this. And they had this whole running joke, not only that Joyce was a stoner and that she was always high, and that's why she was so clueless all the time. We'll get into that and maybe make our own jokes. But they also had a running joke on how most times food's delivered, or even just because of this instance, that they don't use plates at Buffy's house. And they're always serving dinner in a bag. But it became this huge, like, whenever you're listening to their podcast, like, there's episodes where it can kind of come up again and you're like, not dinner in a bag again. So they coined that phrase, and it was just so funny. So I had to give them a little bit of a shout out because it's hilarious. But this bitch bringing him some fucking carrots, some broccoli, probably some chicken or some shit, all up in a bag. And you can see the dinner roll in there. And he's like looking at it. He's like, for one, I ain't going to eat that because it's not red and gooey or warmed up to 98 degrees. But he's like, the fuck is this? Buffy asks what he did all day. He eyes her desk and says he read a little and thought about a lot of things and begins to tell her, but her focus is over at her desk and she calls out,
My diary? You read my diary?
Taking notice it is on top of her desk, she moves over to place it back in the drawer. She goes on wigging out on Angel, saying,
That is not okay. A diary is like a person's most private place. You don't even know what I was writing about. Hunk can mean a lot of things, bad things. And when it says it drives her penetrating, I meant to write bulgy.
He calls out her name in an attempt to cease her ranting, but she goes on. And besides, A doesn't even stand for Angel, for that matter. It stands for Arsenia. JK, it stands for Ahmed, a charming foreign exchange student. So that whole fantasy part has nothing to even do with you at all. I had to add that A for Arsenia thing because I thought about it, and it's like weird how this comes up now for the podcast for you, like Arsenia being our neighbor that we make jokes on all the time. So it's like A is for Arsenia.
I just love that it's probably embedded in your brain. You know, like most people, when someone's like, what's a word that starts with A? Everyone's like apple, you know, because it's just like embedded in your brain like that. Our brain's like Arsenia.
Yep. I will never forget our neighbor from friggin' Tanager Trail. Rest in peace, Mark.
Oh.
Anyways, it's for Ahmed. Angel's had enough, and he states quickly, your mother moved your diary when she came in to clean, and he watched her from the closet. As he did, I didn't read it, I swear. She lets out a surprised, oh, then another deeper, oh, with reality setting in on her tangent. She's embarrassed, looking down at the ground. Angel begins again with his original statement, bringing her attention back to him. Look, I did a lot of thinking today, and I really can't be around you, because when I am... She begins to mutter about no big deal, water over the bridge, under the bridge, words pouring out of her mouth, still ranting while he's trying to talk over her, stating that when he is around her, all he can think about is how badly he wants to kiss her. She hears this very clearly and looks up at him. Kiss me? She asks. He declares that he's a lot older than her, and this can't ever be. He better go. How much older? She asks, stepping towards him. I should... He starts. Go, she says, as she finishes his sentence. She completes her steps, meeting him, staring at his lips. He takes the final step to bring them face to face. He grabs at her just under her chin and tilts her head up into his, and the two share the most tender first kiss I've ever fucking seen in my life to this day. They continue to kiss. It grows in passion as she sweeps one arm around him, holds the back of his neck, starts fondling in his hair. We see tongues clearly on display and being used. The heat is turned all the way the fuck up as we reach a sort of crescendo. He pulls away, turning his head from her suddenly, sounding pained, as she gazes at him, smiling, asking, What? What's wrong? He turns back to face her, only his face is now morphed, and he is a vampire. He growls at her, and reality sets in, and she is shocked. Angel's a fucking vampire. She lets out her horrid scream, and he opens her window and headfirst leaps out and runs off. Buffy's mom comes in, grabbing her, asking her what happened. Buffy is stunned, still in shock, tells her nothing. I saw a shadow, as she looks back out towards the window once more. What did you think about how they displayed this?
I had no idea that was coming. And I don't know, I felt like I knew that it was going there just right before they showed his face as the vampire, because the age thing, when he was like, I'm a lot older than you, that real undertone of it, I was like, how much older? Like 104? You know, like that was instantly my reflex thought to it. So I was like, no. And then, you know, it's all of 7 seconds later when they kiss and that happens. So you don't even have really time to let that absorb. And I was like, oh, no. What now?
For real.
I'm like, of course, poor Buffy's
First,
all in love.
I know, falling in love with a vampire. I know you were still like watching the episode. If anything, eyes are gluing to the screen now. You're like, oh shit, like what's about to happen? But I'm curious what was going through your mind initially.
Yeah, I just didn't. All the things were happening, all the questions. I was like, what does this mean now? Is the ultimate showdown going to be that she has to kill him one day? Like, this is already, I can't go on. I can't go on. This is already heartbreaking
Yeah.
enough, like, there's no good ending unless he turns her into a vampire. Like, I don't know. There was all these things going on. I was like, this could go anywhere now, but either way, it's
Yeah,
not good.
I know that thinking back into it, my first time, I can visually set myself back there and be like, holy fuck, Angel's a vampire. What does this mean? Like, necessarily the same thing they questioned through this up to leading to the end of the episode, where they're like, is he toying with Buffy? Is he working behind the scenes for the Master? He wants to protect her, because you're getting the validity in his acts. Like, the actions speak totally louder than words type shit. And he's been warning her the whole time and giving her the heads up. Does he not like these vampires? Has he got something going on? He's still a vampire himself. This just isn't making sense. And then I was just wondering, and I'm also still drooling over Angel, because of course, little prepubescent me that was gay as shit was like, can he take off his shirt again? Like, he's still a vampire, but he could be shirtless.
You're like, selfishly speaking.
But no, I'm glad we're here, and I'm glad you know now. It was hard to keep that hush hush for the longest time. We still have so much more to unfold, and then even past this.
Well, what's interesting for me is right before that even happened, I don't think I ever questioned what he is. You know what I mean? It never even dawned on me to ask the question to myself, what is he? He only appears at night. He only appears really randomly, yet he really lives, like, superficially speaking, seemingly like a normal person. Like, we haven't seen any antics out of him. And so it's just like, I didn't know. I'm like, is he a messenger for someone? I don't know. I never bothered to even think of where he came from.
I guess we were just thinking he was a regular Joe, and he just liked to come out at night because Buffy was always out at night. He wasn't showing up to the high school to wait outside for her to get out of school and class, but obviously not, because he would have been getting burned up by the sun's rays. But
yeah, and then, or is he like another Slayer? You know what I mean? Because, like, obviously Buffy's normal ish, like, she can go to school, she can do her thing. Like, if you don't know her intimately, you don't know that she has this double life. So it's like they could have gone that way, I guess.
Slayers are only girls.
But
I get what you mean, like another like do-gooder fighter type person, or a Van Helsing type of character, somebody that's out there.
Basically like a Giles, except for maybe, from another realm of existence or whatever.
The next day, outside of the school, the gang approach as Willow calls out, Angel's a vampire? Us the last 5 minutes. Buffy is stunned this is happening. 1 minute they were kissing, and the next minute she asks Giles, can a vampire ever be a good person? He concludes,
a vampire isn't a person at all. It may have the movements, the memories, even the personality of the person that it took over, but it's still a demon at the core. There is no halfway.
She is baffled. Why was he so good to her? Was this part of the Master's plan? This doesn't make sense. Xander taking this opportunity to bring about the reality of Angel's a vampire. She's a Slayer. Isn't it obvious what she has to do? They all look towards Giles, who confirms that this is a good point, and it is her duty. Xander tries to comfort Buffy by saying he understands how she likes this guy, but it's not like she's in love with him. She looks away. You're in love with a vampire? He yells out. What, are you out of your mind? What? We hear Cordelia calling out, who is standing right near them. He chuckles, not vampire, umpire. She looks at him, and they think that she overheard them. And he rephrases the scolding comment at Buffy with the new word. Cordelia wasn't even listening, though. Just happened to be there. She continues to call out to another student who is wearing the exact same dress as her.
Where did you get that dress?
She chases after the student, exclaiming,
This is a one-of-a-kind Todd Oldham. Do you know how much this dress cost? Is this a knockoff? This is a knockoff, isn't it? Some cheesy knockoff. This is exactly what happens when you sign these free trade agreements.
They disappear into the school, and Buffy looks back at the gang, stating, and we think we have problems. Cordelia was tripping me out. She's chasing this girl and grabbing her by the back of her fucking dress. Cordelia, personal space, first of all. She is so entitled. She does not give a fuck. It was just a funny instance. This is Cordelia's worst nightmare.
I know. Well, obviously, as she totally disregarded what she overheard because this dress overshadowed her attention. She was like, fuck what they were saying about vampires. Bitch got the same dress on as me. I'm not having that.
They gotta spook us and scare us. In a dark, dank sub-level of a building, we see Angel enter through a door and open up another door leading into a furnished apartment space, clearly his home. He moves in, switching on a light and sensing a presence. He calls out into the room, who's here? A friend, a feminine voice replies, stepping out, of course, from some corner shadows. It's Darla. Darla, you remember her, right, Courtney?
I do now.
She greets him, saying, "It's been a while. A lifetime," he states. "Or two, but who's counting?" she replies. He comments on her outfit.
What's with the Catholic schoolgirl look? Last time I saw you, it was kimonos.
She jabs at him.
And last time I saw you, it wasn't high school girls. Don't you like?
She giggles and moves over to him, asking if he remembers some of their past together during the turn of the century and how he was such a bad boy back then. He returns she was just as devious. She walks around commenting on how his place is nice, but it resembles too much of human life above ground. He's living like one of them. He and his new friend are attacking them like one of them. She is displeased and tells him, "But guess what, precious? You're not one of them." She moves over to the window and pulls up the blinds, and some sunlight pours into the room. He ducks and moves swiftly out of the light's beam into a darker space. "Are you?" she asks. "No," he replies, "but I'm not exactly one of you either." She steps away and moves towards his refrigerator. "Is that what you tell yourself these days?" She opens it and we see various blood containers. She continues that he and her both know what he hungers for, what he needs, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's what they are, what makes eternal life worth living, and that he can only suppress his true nature for so long. She moves over to him and strokes her hand down his chest and his arms, tells him she can also feel it brewing inside of him, and she hopes that she's around when it explodes. "Maybe you don't want to be," he snarks, glaring at her. She states she's not afraid of him, but she bets the Slayer is, or perhaps she's underestimating him. She motions to the door to leave, requesting that he talk to her.
Tell her about the curse. Maybe she'll come around. And if she still doesn't trust you, you know where I'll be.
She exits and leaves him with these thoughts. Back in the library, everyone is now in research mode. Deep into books, Giles comes up, spooking Xander, saying he's found something at last. Informing them while he has found no mention of Angel in text, he decided to check the diaries of Watchers before, and some 200 years ago, there was mention in Ireland of someone named Angelus, the one with the angelic face. "You got that right," Buffy states as Xander clears his throat. They all give a look to him, and he says that he has nothing to say, which we prefer. Giles continues, asking if Angel has a tattoo behind his right shoulder. Buffy confirms, yeah, it's a bird or something. Xander can't contain his voice any longer and shouts out, "You saw him naked?" Willow cuts him off, asking, "So Angel's been around for a while?" Giles confirming, "Not long for a vampire, 240 years or so." Buffy smirking, saying, 240. Well, he said he was older. Not 104, Courtney, 240. Giles reads a bit of the passage about how Angelus leaves Ireland, wreaks havoc in Europe for several decades, and about 80 years ago, the most curious occurrence happens when he comes to America, shuns other vampires, and lives alone. There's no record of him hunting here. Willow, surprised, she states,
So he is a good vampire. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being someone who's killing and maiming every night, and 1 being someone who's not.
The dialogue in this show is really funny to hear how they put out the words. It's just unique in New York, you know?
They do. They do a lot of puns, which I can appreciate when they deliver well, which they usually do in this show, especially when Buffy's like slaying and saying them at the same time. That's always the best.
Love that. Love that you realize that. Giles is confused because vampires need to hunt and kill. Buffy saying he could have fed on me, but he didn't. Xander asks the question, 100 years or so before he came to our shores, what was he like then? Giles concludes that he was like all of them, a vicious, violent animal. Buffy just glaring at him. Down in the Master's lair, Darla is going on to him about how she's not ungrateful. He let her kill the 3, but he needs to let her take care of the Slayer for him. He sees this as an order and is displeased. Darla, annoyed, mentions fine, we'll just wait around as she kills them off one by one. Sensing a plan brewing in her mind, he asks her to share it. She states Angel kills her, comes back to join us. With joy, the Master comments on how he was the most vicious creature he's ever met, and how he misses him. Darla replying, as does she. The Master curious, why would he kill her if he feels for her? Darla stating to keep her from killing him. Colin has been sitting listening to the two, smiling in wonder at them. The Master smiles and tells him, you see how we all work together for the common good. This is how a family is supposed to function. And this scene ends. Buffy and Willow sit in the library, still in an attempt to do history homework. Buffy is too distracted in Angel thoughts and makes remarks about him again, and Willow asks if they're going to do history homework or discuss boys. Buffy stares at her and Willow decides boys it is, makes mention of a fantasy that she has where sometimes Xander just grabs her and kisses her. Buffy telling her if she wants him, she's just got to speak up. No. She is not having any of that. She tells Buffy that would just lead to madness and sweaty palms. She asks Buffy, so when Angel kissed you, I mean before he turned into grrr. At this point, we can see Darla listening in on them in the stacks behind the bookcases. How was it? Willow finishes her question. Buffy smiles big and tells her it was unbelievable. Darla's face now grows cold. As Willow says, wow, it is novel how he'll stay young and handsome forever, but quickly switches to the reality that Buffy will still get old and die. Thinking that she should probably shut up now, Buffy says, no, I need to hear this. I need to get over him so I can. Willow mirrors her words using her pencil in a jabbing motion so that you can stab him, stake him, kill him. Buffy claims Xander was right. She's the Slayer, he's a vampire, but is still going back and forth on why he didn't hurt her before. She stops the convo saying that no, they need to do more history homework on, and that subject is better for now, and how she will be headed home for some major moping afterwards. They get back into the homework mode as Darla backs away smiling as more of a plan comes to her mind. We cut to nighttime, outside of the Summers residence. Buffy's mom is in the kitchen sitting at the bar pouring herself a cup of coffee while she works, not taking the time apparently to make some delicious frothed cream. It's apparent she's not into the Chobani. She looks away from her work as we hear some creaking noises. She stands up looking concerned, looking out at the back door, even opening it to see if anyone's out there. When she closes it and begins to walk away, we see Darla's vampire face looking in at her. We follow Joyce into the dining room where she hears the knock at the front door and goes to answer it. What was you thinking when you saw Darla at the fucking house?
I already knew as soon as you saw her smirk in the library and like ease out of the scene. I was like, because she heard Buffy just say, I'm going to go home and do some moping. She said, oh, well, I'm going to get her while she's vulnerable at home while she's moping, I guess.
Darla is seen there, looking like a normal girl at the front door entrance, introducing herself as a friend of Buffy's. Joyce claims it's nice to meet her with a confused expression. Darla nods to the fact that Buffy must not have mentioned her coming over for a study date, her mom saying, no, I thought she was studying at the library with Willow. Darla alludes to the fact that Willow indeed was supposed to be helping her with the Civil War, and Darla was supposed to help her with the War of Independence, remarking on how her family goes back to those days. Okay, writers, I see what we're doing here. Also, Darla, like, come on. Joyce claims she knows Buffy should be home soon and asks Darla, would you like to come in and wait for her? Darla steps into the home and tells her, it's so nice of you to invite me into your home. Not realizing what she's done, Joyce is pleasantly happy and hospitable, needing a break from her IRS troubles anyway. She asks Darla if she'd like something to eat, motioning her toward the kitchen. Yes, I would, Darla says, walking behind her, staring at the back of Buffy's mom's neck. They make it into the other room and Joyce is stating,
let's see what we have. Do you feel like something little or something big?
As she opens the refrigerator, Darla is visible behind her in Vampire Face, who says,
something big.
Outside the Summers entrance, we see Angel looming around. He walks up to the porch and is about to knock, but is hesitant. He clearly wants to take Darla's advice and talk with Buffy to tell her his story, but he's doubtful and begins to leave. I noticed for the first time, too, that the Summers residence has a rainbow flag hanging on their porch. It's one of those old cylinder type of shooter ones that have the streamers hanging down from below it. And I was like, gay pride at the Summers residence. But also Buffy's queer-coded as well because she has to hide her real identity from her mother and most other people as well. So putting that out there. As he walks across the front lawn to leave, we hear a guttural scream from inside of the house. He takes off to the back door where the sounds ignite from. He crashes through the door to stand before Darla, holding a passed-out Joyce as bite marks with blood drain down her neck. Let her go, he yells at her. I just had a little. There's plenty more to share, to Angel, she says. Aren't you hungry for something warm after all this time? Come on, Angel, just say yes, as she slings Joyce's body over to him, struggling at first, but smelling the blood, he puts on his vamp pace and looks at Darla. Welcome home, she says as she leaves the house. Angel looks down at Joyce, but doesn't want to feed on her. Unfortunately for him, in this moment, Buffy is calling out to her mom and entering the room, who gets a sight unexpected of him standing there holding her mom, and her face is shocked. Our next shot is the front window of the home. Not long before the glass shatters from Angel's body being sent through it. Buffy steps into its frame and looks to him, saying, you're not welcome here. Tears are welling up in her eyes. She says, you come near us, and I'll kill you. There was no again. They both back away, and Buffy runs straight for the phone to dial 911, claiming her mother cut herself, and that she's lost a grievous amount of blood, and please to hurry. At this time, Willow and Xander come running in the back door. And I was like confused by this because I don't really understand why Xander and Willow were all of a sudden there. But I guess maybe Buffy had been like, hey, after we're done studying, let's all meet at my house and continue our hangout sesh or something. So I was like, of course, conveniently, Buffy's friends run in there to catch this act as well.
Unless it's because she was like, I'm going to go home and mope. And Willow's like codependent. So she's like, let's go help Buffy. And it'll also be an excuse for her to hang out with Xander longer. So she's like, come on.
Either way, the two of them ask what happened and Buffy just calls out Angel. We now arrive at the hospital as Giles is seen running down its halls. We see Buffy in her mom's room asking if she remembers anything. Joyce tells her that her friend came over and that she was going to make a snack. Buffy saying, my friend, to herself, realizing that she probably means Angel, but, she doesn't. Joyce continues, I guess I slipped and cut my neck.
The doctor said it looked like a barbecue fork. We don't have a barbecue fork.
Giles enters the room. Joyce notices him and asks if he's another doctor. Buffy tells her, no, this is Mr. Giles. Joyce perks up, smiling, oh, the librarian from your school. But her smile fades into another bit of confusion as she goes, wait, why is he here? He steps in to inform that he just came to pay his respects, wish her a speedy recovery. Keep the positive vibes flowing. Again with a smile, Joyce states how the teachers in this town really do care. Delulu woman. This is your delusional Joyce. This bitch is crazy.
Honestly, I'm surprised that she was cute enough to be like, who is this? Because initially she was like, oh, it's just the librarian. I was like, if she literally stays so delusional that she doesn't even bother to get background on why this man is standing in her fucking hospital room, I cannot.
Oh my god. Buffy tells her that she should rest and moves out into the hall to speak with the gang. She concludes how her mother will be fine, Giles saying that she's lucky that she found her in time, Buffy saying more like stupid versus lucky. Xander tries to say it's not her fault, but Buffy claims ownership as she's the one who invited Angel into their home, even after finding out who he was, what he was, did nothing about it because she had feelings, i.e. stupid. Willow telling her you can't help not killing someone you cared about. Buffy seeing this as a mistake informs him that she is going to take care of this now, and goes to leave, Xander calling out that they'll stay to look after her mom. Giles tails off after Buffy to warn her of going after Angel, as he's no ordinary vampire. He knows her. He's faced the 3. He tells her, this will take more than a simple stake. Her agreeing claims, so do I. She going to get that crossbow that she doesn't know how to use. per Courtney. You gonna learn she know how to use that crossbow later on one day. Our next shot is of her getting geared up. She is seen in fighting attire, black leather pants, and a sparkly purple top, because this is fighting attire, as she loads multiple crossbow bolts into the crossbow. Back in Angel's home, Darla is seen taunting him as he sits. She's out hunting you right now. She wants to kill you, she states to him. He tries to tell her to leave him alone, but Darla doesn't, and continues, he thought that she would understand, that she would look at his true face and give it a kiss. As she talks, we have cutscenes back to Buffy doing target practice to a magazine picture of a man on the wall, shooting the bow and hitting the man directly at the heart center, aka training and actually hitting her target that she needs to be hitting, which we'll comment back on here in a moment. Courtney's just waiting on the edge of her seat to get there. Darla goes on, for 100 years, you have not had a moment's peace because you won't accept who you are. That's all that he has to do. Accept it, not let her hunt him down, not cower like a mangy human. He should kill and feed. He grows tired, fed up with her, and grabs her, slamming her into the wall, binding her hands above her. All right, he kills out to her. He kills her. She's dead right here. All right, he calls out to her. She asks what he wants. He returns, it finished.
That's good. You're hurting me. That's good too.
She says with pleasure. Darla is a sadistic freak. You gotta love the vampires and their pain and pleasure lore, because every vampire is always basically a sadist at this point. You just learn it. They all like to be harmed, or I don't know. They're the type. Masochist. That's the word I'm looking for. You just know that these two, though, had some kinky times back in their day when Angel was evil, because of the way when he's pinning her and stuff, she says that. Oof.
I was like, they created BDSM.
Exactly. It's the thrill for her. Thrills and chills for Darla. Out in the night, Buffy is seen apparently tracking Angel as she sees shadows of him. She's been brought to the bronze. She hears a window break up above, moves over to a ladder, and climbs up on the roof to gain entry. Flashback to the hospital, where Giles sits talking with Buffy's mom. Making mention of her struggles, Joyce states that she talks about him often, and he's clearly made a good impression on her. Joyce wonders why she has so much trouble with history. Is it because she doesn't apply herself? Giles telling her, I think it's because she lives very much in the now, history being more about the then. Him trying to tell her that there's no reason, her interrupting, she's concerned because she's obviously studying with Willow, she's studying with Darla, she is seemingly trying. Darla? Giles leans in. I don't think I know her. Joyce tells him, her friend, the one who came over tonight. Giles returning her words to confirm Darla's the one that came to your house tonight. She's the friend that you mentioned earlier. Joyce saying, poor thing, she must have been frightened when she fainted. Someone should probably go check on her and see if she's all right. Giles gets up to leave saying, oh, right, someone should. I'll go do that right now. Leaving to go do as such. And Joyce saying to herself, that school is amazing. Oh, this bitch. I have this whole thing later. We'll talk about it. But oh my God, Joyce, come on now. Outside in the hospital halls, Giles gathers Willow and Xander to leave, stating that they have themselves a big problem. We cut back to inside the bronze. Buffy is stepping down the staircase to its lower level. The bronze is empty, of course, due to the extermination happenings. We see Angel eerily moving behind her, watching her in the shadows as she paces around hunting for him. She hears him spinning around with the crossbow at the ready, calling out that she knows he's there. She knows what he is. Do you? He calls out. As we hear him move from location to location swiftly, she can't pin where the voice is coming from. I'm an animal, right? He asks. She's stating, you're not an animal. Animals I like. She hears a growl and he steps out before her in vampire face, saying, let's get it done. He hops up onto the pool table and leaps up above the railings to the second floor. She fires a bolt but misses him. She points it up above, looking for him. He shimmies down and kicks her in the back, knocking the crossbow from her hands and down onto the floor. She kicks him and leaps to the floor, grabbing it and laying there on her back, facing it to him across the room as he hovers. His face morphs back to human form. Much better than what we've seen in the past transitions, I might add, because they ain't doing that crappy Darla shit no more. Now they've got to focus on Angel's pretty face, so they've got to actually pay some money. They were like, well, we're not divvying out but one 2K per slay, so we'll go ahead and put another $500 towards some CGI and actually getting some shit fixed and tweaked. She continues to aim the crossbow at him. Not taking a shot, he taunts her, asking, not going soft on me now, are you? She fires it, and it hits the wall to the right of him. As she stands to her feet, asking why he didn't just attack her when he had the chance. Was it a joke? Was it to make her feel for him? Remarking that she's killed a lot of vampires. She's never hated one before. Him stating that it feels good, doesn't it? Feels simple. She goes on to say that she invited him into her home, and then he attacked her family. Why not? He takes this moment to clue her in.
I killed mine. I killed their friends and their friends' children. For 100 years, I offered an ugly death to everyone I met, and I did it with a song in my heart.
What changed? She asks him. Fed on a dumb but beautiful girl about her age, but a favorite among her clan. The Romani, gypsies, the elder of the clan, conjured up the perfect punishment for him. They restored his soul. Buffy sarcastically asking, why? Because they were all out of blinding boils and torment? He adds to explain.
When you become a vampire, the demon takes your body, but it doesn't get your soul. That's gone. No conscience, no remorse. It's an easy way to live. You have no idea what it's like to have done the things I've done. And to care.
And how he hasn't fed on a living being since that day. She questions, so he started with her mother. Immediately he says, I didn't bite her. Then why didn't you say something? She asks. I wanted to, he says. And I didn't get that at first. I thought he's saying he wanted to say something, but he's saying he wanted to bite into Joyce too, to drink some of her blood. Now I picked it up this time around. I was like, oh shit.
I did not pick that up. I was like, oh, look at him, like, still trying to reach for his conscience.
Yeah, for real. I was like, he wanted to. I thought he meant the other way around. But he says, he can walk like a man, but I'm not one. I wanted to kill you tonight, he finishes also. She sets down the crossbow, moves in front of him, and leans her head to the side, exposing her neck to him, stating, go ahead. He just looks at her. Not as easy as it looks, she adds, and he smiles. But their smiles fade quick when they hear and see Darla step out from the darkness, saying, sure it is, displaying her vampire face. Outside, we see Giles and Willow approaching the bronze as Xander questions exactly what they'll do, especially if Angel's got his friends along for the fight. Back inside, Darla asks, do you know what the saddest thing in the world is? Buffy putting bad hair on top of that outfit. It's like, oh shit, Buffy coming for her neck. It's usually the other way around. Darla just looks at her, then states, to love someone who used to love you. Buffy looks over to Angel and back to Darla. You guys were involved? she asks. For several generations. Buffy adding, well, I guess when you've been around since Columbus, you're bound to pick up a few exes. You're older than him, right? Just between us girls, you are looking a little worn around the eyes. Darla telling them, I made him. Looks over to Angel. And then we get this big reveal that freaking Darla, she is the one who made Angelus. That is wild.
I made him. There was a time when we shared everything, wasn't there, Angelus? You had a chance to come home, to rule with me in the Master's court for 1,000 years, but you threw that away because of her. You love someone who hates us. You're sick, and you'll always be sick. And you'll always remember what it was like to watch her die.
Looking back to Buffy, she says that statement, and you don't think I came alone, do you? I know I didn't, Buffy states as she kicks the crossbow up with her foot and it pops into her arms super quick. She got that shit on fleek. She was like, I can't shoot a bolt, but I can pick this shit up off the floor with my foot. The whole Buffy and the crossbow thing. She shot that magazine picture and hit it right in the heart. And then she's sitting here trying to shoot at Angel. And of course he's leaping and moving and stuff like that. But when she shoots him to the right of him, she shoots it into the wall. But I guess you meant when she's trying to shoot as he's hopping around, she's missing him.
It was just the way that they had her positioned too. I think the angle didn't do the situation no favors because she was on the floor. And she was like, I don't know, it was just like propped up under her chin like that. And she just looked crazy. I was like, okay, but nobody can take you seriously right now. Like, if I just saw her trying to shoot that crossbow at me, I would have died. She couldn't have missed me because I would have stopped leaping because I would have had to laugh at her. I'm like, girl, you look crazy and you look fool. Put that away and get your stake back down.
I know, Buffy, stick to the classics. She becomes amazing with her crossbow later, though. Either way, now that she's got her crossbow back up in her arms, she's aiming it at Darla, who just says, ooh, scary, then draws out a double set of pistols saying, scarier, firing one of the bullets into Angel, who slings back into the wall. Oh, don't worry, bullets can't kill vampires. Sure, they hurt like hell, then fires a round of shots towards Buffy, who dodges them and ducks behind the pool table. The trio outside hear the gunshots and begin to search for the way into the bronze. Darla is still trigger happy as Buffy reloads her crossbow. Oh, hell. Darla's remarking... I forgot she's about to miss again when she shoots Darla in the stomach. You're not wrong, Courtney. She need to put this crossbow down. Okay. Darla remarking at how there's so few body parts and so little bullets, and how she suspects to start with the kneecaps. No fun playing without those. Buffy pops out from behind the table and fires a bolt at Darla, and it hits her in the stomach, to which she states, close, but no heart. Buffy need to train a little bit more. She needs some more magazine pictures up on the walls, apparently. My bad. Poor Buffy. She pulls it out and tosses it over onto the floor as we can see Giles and Willow up on the second floor of the bronze, inside now. We need to distract her fast, Xander says. Willow screams out,
Buffy, it wasn't Angel who attacked your mom, it was Darla!
Darla, hearing this, aims the guns up towards the second floor and starts firing towards the three. They move away, and Darla walks up to the pool table and hops up on it, walking towards where Buffy was, as we see Angel start to stand up, and he grabs the crossbow bolt that Buffy had fired into the wall. Darla acting like Lara Croft, by the way, in these scenes. She over here shooting these guns like she's fucking Tomb Raider.
Okay, but why are you a vampire shooting guns?
Because you got your weapon already as a set of teeth and strength.
No. Yes. I'm like, first off, I would, if I was Buffy, I'd be like, bitch, I don't even need a gun. What are you doing?
So I can answer that.
You look pathetic.
She does look pathetic, especially coming out with some damn guns. Buffy already bad enough with her crossbow, and now you're going to bring guns to the fight.
I want to know, we need to do a hard Google search, because I want to know, truly, if it's ever been done before, where someone thought it was a good idea to give a vampire guns. Like, are they not supposed to be intimidating enough 100%. On their own? You just ruined it for me. Like, now I'm officially not scared of her. You've humanized her. She put guns in her hand.
She's already a vampire, so she's scary. Now she's a vampire with guns, so you know she's got strong intent to kill. 2, the reason she has guns, which I think is just the stupidest thing ever, but they had to like raise the stakes a little bit higher to actually throw a bigger threat, and that's why she brought guns along. I don't know where she got the guns, obviously from Lara Croft. She called Lara up on the phone and was like, hey, can you get your butler to bring me some of these guns? Can't remember what his name is, but Thomas. Everyone's just iconically named Thomas when we don't have a name for them. Colin.
No, that's the connection they have. The boy is the butler, but he's also the boy. He's Thomas.
The anointed one gave her the guns. But no, she has
Yes.
the guns because obviously Buffy's been slaying off the Brethren and posed a real threat to them. And basically, she's just going to walk up into the Master's lair at this point next and just stake his ass too, because after Darla's out the way, what's he got left? This 8-year-old to protect him? No, she's going to dust the two of them and be done. She brought the guns because she was like, well, nobody else ain't been able to take care of the Slayer. If anything, I'm going to put a bullet in her ass and that'll make her dead. Like, I won't have to do anything with her. You know what I mean? So I guess that's why the guns were there, but also just to show that as the danger element. So we didn't see what is about to happen coming as well. We're just like so focused on her with them guns, we're not really paying attention to some other stuff.
It was a good distraction because I was like, what is this bitch doing with some damn guns?
Either way, Buffy jumps up and pulls the pool table, knocking Darla off of balance and onto her back. She pushes the pool table away as it sails across the floor. Darla rides it, firing more bullets her way. I want to stop here too to also commentate on Buffy's strength display here. I know we've seen it 100 times, but you know how heavy a pool table is? Buffy pushed that shit and it goes sliding like 10 or 12 feet across the floor, enough for it to get an angle of her going backwards with it. I was like, holy fucking shit, them things are massively heavy. And she just like pushed it like it was a rolling tray. I was like, oh damn, that's some cool shit right there. Anyway, she's still firing those bullets at Buffy. Buffy hops behind the concessions. Darla drops down and walks towards them. Upstairs, Giles is fiddling with the controls to distract her further, slamming items around, landing on some strobe lights that begin to flicker and dimly light the space. Buffy gets up to move away from Darla, who's nearly at her.
Come on, Buffy. Take it like a man.
She calls out. We see Angel run up behind Darla and embed the wooden bolt into her backside, growling and her firing off one last shot upwards as she rears back and around to face him. She looks deeply into his eyes and calls out,
Angel?
She drops to the floor and we get the 2K per slay as Darla fades to dust on the floor. Ugh. Buffy stands up and meets eyes now with Angel, taking notice to what he's done. He backs away with saddened eyes and leaves the bronze. Buffy stands there also holding back tears for him. Holy fuck, Darla's dead. Insane. I know that doesn't mean so much to you now, and I cannot give any kind of spoilers, but Darla had so much room to grow. You know what I mean? Like, as a character and stuff. And
well, for me, I was like, damn, that, they just revealed that she is his Angel's maker. So it was kind of like, oh shit. Like, now this whole element of everything kind of has changed in a way. You know what I mean? Like, it resonated deeply with me because I was like, even though technically she's only been on like 2 real episodes, I was like, damn, they just revealed how important she is to like the backbone of the show by being the creator of Angel, and now she did.
She's gone.
She gone.
I will tell you a spoiler because it's not like a spoiler for the show, but a maker of a vampire is called a sire in the show. So whenever they use the phrase that they sired somebody, that means that they turned them into a vampire.
Got you.
Well, Darla's dead, and now we hear guttural screams and crashes as we cut to the Master's lair, and he's slinging items around, destroying his space, letting out more howls as he falls to the floor, crushed at the news of Darla, basically acting like the mom from Hereditary when she finds out her daughter's dead and headless. He's like, like it's all crazy. Always got to sneak in the mention of our favorite movie somewhere in the episode, but here it is. I'll insert the clip of her audio sounds.
I can't. I just want to die.
She's basically just like the Master. He is her here. He's channeling.
That's why we love
For
the
real.
show.
Forget her, the Anointed says, walking over to him. To which he replies, how dare you? He about to beat your ass, Colin. She was my favorite for 400 years. She was weak, Colin says. We don't need her. I'll bring you the Slayer. But to lose her to Angel, the Master continues, he was to have sat at my right hand come the day. And now, they're all against you, Colin chimes back in. But soon you shall rise, and when you do, he places a comforted hand on the Master's shoulder, finishing, we'll kill them all. The Master smiles at him and reaches for his hand as the two walk off together. We arrive at our final scene, post-fumigation night at the Bronze, which is back open and Buffy, Willow, and Xander chill at. Willow's asking if Buffy's heard from Angel. Nah, she says, but in his way, I feel like he's still watching me. Willow, looking past her, says, well, in a way, he sort of is. In the way that looking past her says, he's right over there, pointing him out to her. She sees him and walks towards him, Xander commenting on how he doesn't even need to watch this interaction. He's just going to turn his back to face Willow and pay them no mind as Willow takes a seat to watch this interaction. Buffy slowly moves across to meet Angel, who's now walking toward her. He tells her he just wanted to see if her and her mother were okay. She says they're both good, and him? He comments if he can go a while without getting shot or stabbed, he'll be all right. Attempting to add, look, this can't ever be anything, Buffy completes the sentence. I know, for one thing, you're like 224 years older than I am. He says he's just got to walk away from this. She agrees, her also. They just stand there and stare. Buffy mentions one of them has to go now. He knows, and he leans in to kiss her. They share a long kiss right there in front of everyone. Xander asks Willow, who is watching this romance, what's going on? She replies, nothing. As he says, well, as long as they're not kissing. Okay, Xander. Willow smirks, loving this for Buffy. The two break their kiss, and Buffy asks if he's okay. He says, it's painful. I know, she says. Oh, she takes his words from him and says it's painful. She knows, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Because they always complete each other's sentences because they're so betrothed and in love and meant to be. I love it. She offers to see you around and backs away from him. We close in on his face, watching her leave, and then the shot moves down to his half-unbuttoned shirt, having exposed part of his chest. We notice that Buffy's cross necklace had been laying there upon it, and has seared the imprint of the cross onto his chest, and it is now red and irritated. We fade to black, and here endeth the episode. The song playing, by the way, in the end of this, in case anybody wants to know, is called I'll Remember You by Sophie Zelmani.
I already know every single thing about whatever is going to happen with their relationship is probably going to make me cry.
Every single thing. I'm not even going to fuck with you.
Because it just can't be like, there can't be any joy in that. I can already foresee it.
We have so much to learn as well, and we have so much to break down. But that being said, let's move into the little small section I have for metaphor this episode. I do have a little bit, as most of the episode lends to the story that has been being built since the beginning. We see Angel make it clear that he's interested in Buffy at the end of Teacher's Pet when he tells her the jacket looks better on her, and she begins to acknowledge her attraction to him with that oh boy. This all unfolds, and even so with his comments about her date with Owen and never kill a boy, but the payoff and the buildup that happens in this episode and the metaphors displayed across are smaller, but still in little nods. Angel hiding in the closet from Joyce can be seen as his undisclosed vampire nature, just as they say gays are in the closet before coming out, therefore a metaphor for hidden orientation or like who you are as a person hiding in that closet. Angel was in the closet. In the scene with Darla offering Joyce over to Angel to feed upon is a metaphor for an enabler feeding one's addiction, which is shown as Angel is almost tempted to drink her blood, and then also confirmed a little bit ago by me to you, saying that he actually wanted to take that drink. Angel is struggling to control his inner demon, even with a soul. Temptation clearly makes this urge stronger, but I thought that was interesting. That's how the metaphor was displayed in this episode, talking about addiction basically as a subtext and coming out and things such as that was pretty much where we went versus the darker themes that we went into last episode. Either way, we can close here, though, knowing that Buffy is still making good choices for her role as a Slayer. She still walks away from Angel at the end of this episode, creating that distance between their relationship and all the drama that's happened surrounding it. Just as she chose to walk away from Owen, both know at this time, or possibly in general, that it doesn't bode well for them to be together. It was interesting that we did get Angel's backstory, and we learned about his curse and why he fights on the side of good essentially now. It's all about atonement for him. He is obviously developing feelings for Buffy, and like he wants to help her and aid her in any way that he can. That's why he's been giving her the messages, and obviously now he's stepped up his game to basically fighting alongside of her in the episode because he helps her with the 3 in the beginning. Thank God he was there following behind her, because if not, our Slayer would have been dead and another one would have been being called, and the show wouldn't be Buffy the Vampire Slayer anymore. It would be whoever the fuck the next Slayer is. But
it would be called R.I.P.
For real though. But I like that we found out where it came from. The fact that we come to learn Darla is just over 400 years old, and the one that took his human life away as a vampire was like key to the whole story too. Obviously we found out like that right before she died. That's like a long score of time that they were able to spend together before, because what they say, I think for 100 and something years he rained torment on, you know, whatever he was doing with Darla in that time frame. and was killing, murdering, all these crazy acts before obviously he got his soul. And then for like the last 80 years, he shunned Darla because she said in the beginning of the episode when she greeted him in his apartment that it had been a long time since they've seen each other. So even though they're both in Sunnydale at the same time, they still haven't been interacting at all. So he's still been shunning those vampires and keeping them at bay. But they obviously knew Angel was there. So I'm surprised that she took that long to come and interact with him. But at this point, she's like, well, Buffy's like killing all of us. We need to try to bring Angel back into the fold or something like that if we can get him to act on his more evil behalf versus his soul. Because obviously the soul being placed into Angel brings up that conscience and that right and wrong perspective. I want to point out the ending to this episode whenever he stakes Darla is just very intimate, and I could not imagine, because the way she looks at him whenever she notices that he's the one that's just staked her, in those 2 seconds it takes her to turn to dust and fall to that floor. The guy that she made and spent all this time with, she's now met her demise at his hand. It's the ultimate insult as well. And then at that moment she totally knows that's not Angelus anymore. This is this Angel character that he's now gonna choose Buffy and all this other stuff. She thought maybe she'd be able to pop a cap in her ass and then they would be able to go on. But I just think it literally like being stabbed in your back is probably what she felt in that moment, only in literal form.
Yeah, I definitely sense that same energy where you could tell in those 2 last seconds of her life, or whatever you want to call it, that she has, because they're not alive technically, but right before her demise, like you said, you can see that the betrayal of it all is resonating hard.
Yeah.
So that was definitely, I think, I don't know, are we gonna get a more intimate 2K per slay than that one, or with that much attachment?
I can think of one. Maybe not be
Oh,
a
shit.
full-on slay, but I can think of a moment. I don't know if it costs $2,000, but it's definitely like just as guttural as that one. Yeah, that shit just like strikes me, but I just can't speak on that enough. One day I'm going to say some more and add to that, but I can't right now at all. So we'll have more to talk about whenever that comes up, because obviously like Darla has to come up in some way, shape, or form again, as even in just in conversation or something, because she was such a big role for Angel in his story. So I'll just leave you with that. Anyways, closing thoughts after all that and the details in the episode. What did you think of the info given to us so far and the backstory of Angel?
I was completely shocked for so many reasons, but primarily Angel being a vampire threw me, Darla's return threw me, and then to find out that Darla made Angel just tied everything off with the shock value of this particular episode. I was like, holy shit, what else is gonna happen? Are we gonna find out that the master is Angel's dad or something? I need to know more information.
The master, I will tell you, is much, much, much older than Darla himself, because as we talked about in the very beginning, vampires, once they've aged to a certain extent, they start to, like, he's not even in human form sometimes anymore. His vampire face is already like that, and his face is like more contorted in a way and more like bent in and like bumpy than the other ones, like has more of those creases. Obviously he's got that permanent stain around his mouth because he's been drinking blood for so long, like all of the things.
Even though the blood just runs off of him, so I'm confused about
that
the
was
stain.
Before it started running off of him, when it was just sinking to his skin. He was just bathed in his blood.
When you become a senior citizen vampire, you become blood resistant.
Yeah. Do you have any high hopes for Angel and Buffy moving forward, since they technically shouldn't be together?
I don't have high hopes. I have a feeling of it being the most intensely sad love story that we have to follow along for however long this will be happening for. So I don't know, but I'm interested to see where it goes, because I'm just torn on what the fuck can happen from here. Like, is she gonna still have to commit? Like, she's gonna have to slay him at some point? Is he gonna continue to reemerge out of the darkness randomly? Like, is he gone for a while? There's so many questions.
That's funny, because those are the 2 questions like I just asked you in a moment, but those are actually the Slayer Rep predictions that I was like throwing out there later on. So we just covered Slayer Rep predictions. I was also going to ask what you thought initially of the curse and stuff as well being presented to us, like the fact that Angel did something so wrong to someone's clan, and then they decided like, oh, we're going to curse you with a soul, so that way you're tormented with your like thoughts of all the heinous acts you've done.
I was glad that that was explained, because I didn't understand what made him different, obviously, especially when we got so much backstory about how vicious he obviously used to be when he was like full on like with Darla and just killing everyone, I guess. But yeah, I was just really grateful to have that little piece of information because I was like, so what's different? He just all of a sudden woke up one day and was like, I'm getting real tired of killing people and drinking blood, so I think I'm gonna not. But it makes me wonder, how hard is it? Because, then you end up in these situations he is with Buffy right now, where if that wasn't the case and he didn't have a soul, he wouldn't even have long enough to hold a conversation with her because he'd already be at her
For
neck,
real.
or whatever. So yeah, I feel bad for him, and I feel like in a way it plays on so many parts of our lives, and especially being queer, where we all, like you said, we have to go through the closeted phase almost, and that's such a pivotal moment in our lives where we decide one day, like, this isn't it for me. We have to live authentically. We have to be able to like feel our feelings, but that time in between feels a lot like this, where it's just so intense. It feels like you have a soul and you don't, almost, you like want to be yourself. You want to be this person, you authentically are, but you know that there's so many outside elements that look at what you do and who you are as like wrong and as negative without having any kind of understanding of your nature or whatever. So I find it interesting that I find a lot of these moments in the episodes where I feel like, okay, they're doing like a play on reality, and how like that's why the emotion gets evoked out of us the way it does with Buffy and him, especially because we've all felt that, we've all felt like that moment where we love someone and we can't like be outwardly about it, whether it's like a fear of rejection from the person specifically or from society or however that is. We've all encountered that, and we all can go into that space watching these things. So I was just like, holy shit, they did a lot with this episode. They did the reveal, they did the love element, and then we have this whole story on Angel where we're just like, holy shit, you want to feel bad for him because he's obviously like a tortured soul. He can't like do what he wants to do, but he has this other side of him that's obviously like so vicious. So you kind of don't feel
Yeah.
bad for him because as soon as he goes into vamp face, you're like, nah,
I
fuck
know.
that.
Well, thankfully he can't act on those anymore because he is a do-gooder at this point. Like, just thinking about the curse, how in Twilight they basically force themselves not to feed on humans. They like build up a tolerance.
Yeah.
But this is the original like vampire story when it comes to a boy and a girl, but vampire and a girl. And this time, Slayer around, but not just your average girl. But I thought it was interesting how they threw in the curse to be like the reason why he doesn't do
Yeah.
harm anymore, and why he's like trying to basically atone for his past sins and play a bigger part. He has a chance to redo his life and do something better with it, and also fight alongside him, destroy evil, all the good things. But yeah, cool. I've already glorified enough my love for this episode, but it seals the deal on the new love, even though problematic, between Buffy and Angel, and begins the story arc for the two. I also think it's wildly symbolic yet crazy that Darla lived for over 400 years and has been through so much to only be dusted by Angel, which I said, but I'm also just going to read out what I have written for my notes. I can see why she turned around so gently, stunned at the fact of him staking her. That is a big moment. I do find it interesting that Giles didn't just be like, no, he's a vampire, Buffy, this cannot be, just immediately calling it quits when she told them that information. You have to dispose of him, but he's not doing that, which leads me to wonder if he just trusts, or if he sees the complex issue at hand with the fact that she cares for him, or if he's still just putting the pieces together, because by the end of the episode, all he knows is Darla attacked Joyce instead of Angel. So he vouches, or he can now vouch for that situation. But he doesn't know any of the info that Buffy learned of Angel's past from Darla and him in the Bronze. Not yet, anyways. So the fact that he was not immediately telling Buffy, nah, he's a vampire, you're the Slayer, you got to be one and done. That's just as simple as it is. You got to get rid of him, or stop talking to him, or anything like that. Especially him being like in this position with her being without a father and only having her mom. He's kind of like stepped in almost as like this fatherly shadow in her life as well. The natural Slayer Watcher dynamic that's already been presented, that grows strongly over like the whole series, but that's already been set up for us. I think it ultimately just points out to him realizing Buffy can take care of herself, and she's making the decision as the situation presents itself. And I also wanted to give a moment to delusional Joyce Summers over here. This poor sweet woman, crazy to think Buffy's mom is just totally attacked this episode, but how does she not remember of how like Darla attacked her? Is it because she came from behind her and just felt that prick and like the blood loss like taking to her fast just wiped her memory or made her like faint. You know what I mean? You just lapse out on like exactly what happened. I thought I would remember that. I wouldn't just create a fog around what happened, but does the Summers home even have a barbecue fork? Like she said very clearly that they don't have one. So she's got to be ultimately confused, but also, like I said, she's the delusional mom. Either way, I have so much more I want to point out, but I can't because of spoiler territory. So we'll come back full circle later and in the distant future. Yeah, let's get into our Shining Slayer. Who's yours for this episode?
Buffy.
Buffy.
No doubt.
She's like, I don't aim to choose Buffy, but it's got to be Buffy this time.
It's gotta be.
Love.
I mean, I guess it could be a toss-up. Angel did have a good moment where he came in and really saved her ass. Like you said, she would have been done, I safely assume, if she's 3 against herself there. She didn't have Darla's guns on hand, so so maybe a tie between Buffy and Angel, but I don't know. Buffy just stands out more to me. She emotionally and physically went through it. So like you gotta hats off.
Truly, I chose Angel for getting rid of Darla, essentially, only in the way that she was a powerful tool in the case of the Master. So now she's gone and all he has is that little kid on his side, essentially. But yeah, I chose Angel for that reason. Simple enough, because he did more this episode whenever it came to that, because Buffy couldn't even shoot anybody with a damn crossbow. So Buffy needed to bring that damn quarterstaff out so that way she could have her shining moment. And actually it was a piece of wood, so she could have just staked him with that. But they had to put it out there for the pack-a-punch with Angel killing Darla. My quote for the episode was, just because I want to honor her, Darla before dusting, simply calling out Angel. It just means so much to me that I can't let on, but that was my quote for the episode. It's just that simple, Angel.
Well, so you know more than we do, or than I do.
Some of y'all.
I like to speak for the ones of us who don't know anything.
You are the ones.
I know, I was going to say, it might just be me at this point, but that's okay. My quote was Buffy being savage toward Darla, talking about bad hair on top of that outfit, and then following it up with how she looks worn around the eyes. I was like, damn, you did a double insult before you could even finish your statement.
What gave you the weekly wigs?
So I know that there were a few weekly wigs that I wrote down that were minimal in nature. So I rounded it off and I said, I'm lacking a true weekly wigs moment. However, the Master and Darla dynamic was the overall weekly wigs for me. It was just too much. I was like, there's a lot of cringe going on here. You don't want to admit that you're dependent on her, but you know, like you just said, that she's his only greatest ally left, and now you're left with a child. And then you're delusional like Joyce at the same time, thinking that she's going to be the magic one to go up here and slay Buffy when no one else has been able to do it. So in essence, you're telling her by giving her approval that you're willing to risk her life and her existence, because that's what's going to happen.
Basically.
What? So basically, the Master just fucking himself is giving me the weekly wigs, because I'm like, you steady complaining about a lot of stuff with your entitlement, but putting yourself in those situations.
Yeah, he was sitting there telling Darla all that shit. She's like, fine, we'll just let her take us out one by one. And he could have just been like, yeah, go up there and kill her. Yeah, that is pretty wig worthy. Mine was just simply enough, put the Bronze's fumigation event, like primarily being the moment that Willow crushed that roach on her shoe and then put it in Xander's face. I was like,
I wrote that down.
I ain't scared of bugs at all, but just the fumigation event in general, like this place collects roaches enough to where annually the fact that this place closes down and has to do a fumigation on some roaches that build up. Do they not keep this place clean enough? What is happening?
It's already a sketchy place. I've had a lot of questions about it since episode 1, to be honest with you. Like I still don't know why it's there. I'm like, why are y'all who is letting the kids in and drink? They're
Most
like
of them aren't
18.
drinking though. Like, I mean, some of the kids maybe, like for sure, because they definitely do serve alcohol.
Or that's what they allude,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, most of them are probably drinking stuff. Or like the times we've seen Buffy there, she's been having coffee or like an herbal tea or something like that, because she has like a coffee cup versus like a solo cup or a glass with like a big ass ice cube in it and a fucking two finger length of whiskey. Yeah, Buffy would totally be a cocktail person versus a whiskey drinker. Same for Xander. Willow's probably the one over here hardcore drinking whiskey, if anything.
Xander apparently likes martinis that Miss French makes.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. Exactly. Oh, the callbacks. It's the callbacks for me. Well, to close off, this is a powerful episode, and one I must say contributes to so much over time, and especially for season 2 of Buffy, setting up their apparent romance and some of what we can expect. I truly cannot wait to get there more than anything for this podcast, and then for you to see everything that unfolds with that as well. But that concludes our episode, Angel. Let us know what you guys think of this one and how you feel about Bangel, aka the tie together of Buffy and Angel, because that's what everybody calls it. You know, I'm a Bangel stan. Do their kisses make you melt each time like they do me? Who would you guys give Shining Slayer to, and what gave you the weekly wigs? Let us know. We'll be back as always in a week for the next episode, where we get our first Willow in the hot seat centric episode and be introduced to a new pivotal character that will join our gang. We'll also be back to the Monster of the Week format in episode 8, iRobot You Jane. This is also a good time to let you guys know ahead of time as your first reminder that we will be taking a short break after episode 8 premieres on November 22nd and be absent Friday, November 29th in order to take a short pause and enjoy a much-deserved Thanksgiving break. After that, we will be back on December 6th to get into episode 9 and wrap up the final 4 episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 1. We look forward to meeting you guys there. Until then, we'll see you guys in Sunnydale. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Buffy on Revamped. Remember to join us next week for a new episode release as we continue our journey through Sunnydale. We also would like to hear from you, so share your thoughts. Discuss with us your perspectives on this or previous week's episodes by following us on Instagram and sending us a DM at revamped_rewatch podcast.
Or by emailing us at revampedrewatchpod@gmail.com. Additionally, we will be choosing one of your messages to shout out in an upcoming episode release. And don't forget, if you're looking for a friend and some unsolicited advice for the times when life feels out of orbit, go follow Life in Retrograde podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Until next time, the Earth is definitely doomed.
This podcast is dedicated to the Buffyverse, to its fans, and my sister, Tiffany Dawn Pearson.